Hi, this is Televisionation, and I'm Tracy Swedlow. I am really happy that you are all here, and we're about to have a great interview with Todd Achilles, who is here. He's the CEO of a new company called Evoca, which is part of Edge Networks. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Great. Thanks, Tracy.
You guys are doing some interesting work, putting your foot forward on the whole ATSC 3.0 NextGen TV thing in Boise, Idaho. We want to hear all about it. I mean, but you know, in an environment of a pandemic and everything else that's going on, trying to get out new technology in a real world environment and making it an actual product to sell on the market, that's a feat. So let's hear a little bit more about you, about what you're about to do, if you would please.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Tracy. I appreciate the time. Edge Networks is we're a ATSC 3.0 broadcaster. We've got 2 stations on the air in Boise, and we've announced just a pay TV service called Evoca. And it's basically using kind of the advanced technologies around 3.0 to be able to deliver a competitive pay TV bundle in what we consider underserved markets. So our focus is primarily on 2nd and 3rd tier markets, which is why we're starting in Boise. And we see a huge opportunity to bring value back into the pay TV space. And we do that by creating a bundle of channels that we can do because of kind of the advanced technologies in 3.0. So the offer that we'll be putting into the market when we launch later this summer is over 80 channels, less than $50 a month, with higher quality, including dedicated 4K content that you can't get from any of the kind of the traditional MVPDs.
Mm-hmm. And I believe it's going to be, you said, like for under $50?
Correct.
I mean, trying to put something new like that into the market, but that's really like a first thing, because I know we're still doing the trials in Phoenix, and elsewhere, right? There's sort of 19 other markets, I think, that are experimenting. But I mean, why did you decide, or why was this company started to wrap itself around the NextGen TV, ATSC 3.0, that's formerly known technology? What's the business opportunity for you?
Well, there's lots of different business models around 3.0, and I think the people that developed the standard did phenomenal work. I've spent pretty much all my career in the wireless industry. I came in during the 2G days and sort of rode it all the way through. And 3.0 is really, it's the most efficient air interface that's out there today. And I think in terms of probably the 3 most important things is it's IP based. So for the first time, broadcast talks to the internet, right? And that's a really, really big deal. The second part of it is just incredibly spectrally efficient. So mobile networks, 4G and 5G, they spend a bunch of bandwidth just trying to track where you are as you move between different cell sites. And obviously you don't have any of that overhead on 3.0. And then the best part, particularly coming, somebody like me coming out of the mobile industry, broadcast stations reach really far, and they cover a lot of homes. So you put those 3 things together, and what it allows you to do is sort of do what broadcast does best, right? It's that reach a bunch of homes, that sort of multicast one-to-many efficiency. But because it's IP based, you can put it together with other internet providers. So it could be a DSL connection, it could be a 4G connection, fiber, whatever. And our model is this sort of converged network. So it's 3.0 plus an IP network, and when you put those 2 things together, you can do some really cool stuff that isn't possible just in 3.0 or just in the sort of traditional IP realm.
Well, I want to talk about that in a second, because of course I'm a passionate believer in interactive content. But I mean, it seems to me like or would you say that you are hoping to compete with the likes of Sinclair and Nexstar and companies like that want to own the local television market? Do you see yourself more as it's almost like an MVPD using ATSC 3.0, or like who's your competitor, would you say?
Yeah, I think the reality is we probably kind of land down the middle between those two guardrails. You know, we want to bring up a multi-channel bundle to the market. You know, we're focused on these underserved markets where there's aren't a lot of options for consumers in terms of what they can watch, and what is available is super expensive. And I think rather than kind of a traditional broadcast model, you know, ours is it's a pay TV platform, so it's protected content. You know, we're using all of sort of the, you know, the standard OTT protocols in terms of how we encrypt and protect that content end to end, and then, you know, turn that into a bundle that's half the price of what's out there.
But this is about owning the advertising relationships, right, with all those underserved markets and or licensing.
Yeah, sorry, Tracy. Certainly, there's an element to advertising about this, but it's, you know, it's a subscription driven business.
Right. But making those first relationships in underserved markets, delivering them a premium service, that's invaluable. I mean, the subscription is great, but having those relationships costs a lot more money. Anyway, you know that.
You're right.
In great detail. Okay. Now this is being delivered to people who have those, like, you can just get those like thin, square, or rectangle shaped antennas, right? That are kind of thin, or whatever shape they happen to be.
You know, pretty much any antenna works because the frequencies haven't changed. So, you know, there's lots of cool new antennas. There's older ones out there that work just fine. We've built our own set-top box that goes in the home because there isn't really any product out there that did what we needed. Mm-hmm. So take the antenna, plug it in the back of the set-top box, connect it to your internet service, and then a cable back into the TV, and you're off and running.
The set-top box can be rented as well, correct?
We'll have two options. You can either just buy it up front, or you can pay on a monthly basis. What we've seen in our market research is, you know, among the many things that frustrate consumers with the current pay TV services, one is that sort of perpetual renting fee. So we actually don't have that option. It's either buy it or lease it, and it's yours.
And how much does it cost to buy?
The set-top box would be $100. Okay,
so it's like buying OTT offering of some kind, or like an Apple TV or something like that.
Yeah.
So, and what kinds of channel partnerships have you made? What are you going to launch with?
You know, we're not revealing what the channel lineup is yet. We're getting closer and closer to that as we get.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to tell me right now. I knew it was a secret, but I thought I'd ask. Okay.
But it, you know, it'll be an equivalent basic channel lineup or basic cable lineup.
What about local stations? Aren't they all going to be part of that package too?
They are going to be in. Yep.
And because this is an offering that involves the internet, you know, redirect channel, what kinds of interactivity are we talking about? Just an EPG, you know, an online guide, interactive online guide, or what kinds of things might you launch with? What's going to happen in the first 6 months? Or are you just going to deliver, you know, on demand and linear content? Or what's it going to look like? Please.
Well, you know, it's definitely going to evolve, right? As we launch and we move forward from a product development standpoint. So, you know, there's a bunch of really cool stuff that you can do in 3.0. You know, we're big fans of a lot of the HBB experiences that's available in Europe in terms of creating an interactive experience. You know, every one of our boxes has you know, they're connected to the internet, so there's a bunch of stuff that we can do there. And I think we're gonna, you know, we'll sort of progress what we do in terms of the user experience that we deliver, but with, you know, really all of the pieces that we're bringing together, we really want to try and do something special here and kind of break out of that, you know, traditional EPG mode.
Yeah, I'd like to see some innovation. I mean, all of these EPGs and all the stuff that kind of all looks the same. You barely know you're moving from one place to the other unless you look at the brand. We want some innovation in the UI UX and something. What about...
No pressure on us. Thanks, Tracy.
Okay. Is commerce going to be an option, since, you know, you can see something on TV maybe and then, you know, direct them to an internet or an app experience? You're going to use second screen TV. Is that going to be part of the picture? Commerce?
You know, Not at launch. I think these are the sorts of things that we're looking at, experimenting with, figuring out. Ultimately, is this stuff that our customers want to use and find value in.
I think you need a hackathon.
That would be kind of fun.
It would be a great competition. Let me know. TVOT is a great place for that. We've produced 3. Not that I'm advertising our services in particular, but it is a great community. But anyway, so tell me, how have the local stations received you, knowing that you're going to, give them an incredible new offering here that might help them reach people through mobile apps? And because they've already got a lot of content going to a website or something, or maybe to an app that they developed. But what do they think? Do they see you as a competitor, or are they going to embrace that? I don't have COVID. Okay, go ahead.
The bundle that we're building is really around live content, news and sports, entertainment, right? And the local broadcast channels are an important part of this. And we through our UI, we enable access to the local broadcast channels. And so, there's a progression as everyone moves to 3.0. We've got 2 stations on the air, and there's just there's really interesting stuff that you can do with 3.0, and partnering with the local stations to be able to help them deliver advanced services is really part of what we want to be able to do going forward. I think there's, a good analogy is kind of what I experienced back in the mobile days. 3G was a really, really big change in mobile networks. If you think back to those days, and it was a big deal because for the first time, a long time ago, right? But everything changed with 3G because for the first time, mobile phones connected to the internet, right? You could pass IP traffic all the way through the phone, which then brought smartphones and open operating systems and then app stores. And then you've got, these billion-dollar businesses that were just apps sitting on top of this whole platform. And I think with 3.0, you've got the potential that, that same kind of massive shift that, you've got our business model that we're pursuing because we see a huge gap in the market, particularly in these underserved markets. But there's tons of other business models out there that I think are possible on 3.0 going forward. And it's wide open.
I want to talk about the technology for a second. What kinds of technology partners are you working with? Don't you need tuners? What about the smart TV, the CE people? What about ACR? Various companies want to help gather information. Are you going to be launching addressable advertising? Can you give me a little taste?
Yeah, the reality is to pull this together, there's a little bit of all of the above. So we've got a close group of suppliers and partners on the broadcast side. We've got a bunch of partners that we're working with on building the set-top box, both at the hardware and the software layer. And then there's a bunch of pieces here that we're building and working with partners to kind of put the pieces together. Addressable advertising is one of those big elements kind of right in between there that, we've got the ability to do both from the transmission side as well as from the box side.
But because you're working with the box, you're not going to need a tuner in the TV itself. That's how you're bypassing that, or do you?
Yeah, the connection from the set-top box, we call it the Scout. That's the name of the product. So the connection from the Scout to the TV is just a HDMI cable, just
right.
A Roku or a Fire TV or something like that.
And can you tell us who some of these other partners are? Can you name their names?
Yeah, sure. On the transmission side, we're working with Gates Air and Comark. On sort of the broadcast systems, it's Enesys, it's Harmonic, it's Triveni. On the box side, I probably can't talk too much about the components in the box, but and then we're doing a lot of development on our own in terms of this kind of converged architecture. It's been a topic of conversation in the 3.0 space, I think, from the very early days. we've developed a lot of IP to actually put these pieces together. And there's a bunch of patents we filed and other things to make this transition in terms of how people pull these various networks together and do it in a single user interface where you kind of abstract that underlying network that we think is obviously super important in making this work.
And one of the first applications of all this, and one of the main reasons I think this technology was created, was because it would allow alerting, right, for emergencies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be part of launching? I mean, that, John Lawson, a Warren,
Yeah.
and he's been talking about it for years. So I'm kind of curious if that's going to be part of your launch.
Yeah, no, I think the work that John's doing on A1 is great, and there's you see some of the work that they've pulled together, and it really just it makes you completely rethink about what's possible. And these are the things I think as we look at our product development roadmap and how we roll services out, the sorts of things that we want to integrate going forward.
Okay. Now, because of the pandemic, I know that a lot of companies are having difficulty getting NextGen TV stuff out the door. There's been some setbacks a little bit because everyone's not around. They can't get things to, things are still being worked on. People are obviously discussing behind the scenes. Are you facing any of those kinds of problems? I mean, it sounds like you've been able to find some workarounds. Can you tell me a little bit about those challenges, please?
Yeah, there's two sides to it, Tracy. Honestly, I mean, one side, it is harder. The team's dispersed. We can't get folks together, and it takes a little longer to get, the hardware built and test equipment where we need it to be. On the other hand, there's some advantages to launching a new service in a recession. Different partners are looking for opportunities or new business that maybe you wouldn't have if the economy was humming along. And so there's definitely been some doors open for us about, there's not a lot of people out there looking to get new boxes built. So it's sort of, we've been able to have some conversations with, big contract manufacturers that, 2 years ago probably would have been a much more difficult conversation.
And where's all the money coming from?
We've got investors on what we're doing, and this is a service that we will be continuing to raise money as we roll out the network over the next couple of years. But we've got some great investors that have helped us get off the ground and get to where we are now and get through the.
Would you call? I mean, since Edge Networks already existed, is this considered a startup though, or is it not? Is it like an offering of? What's the?
Edge Networks is 2 years old, and then we announced the service brand back in April.
Okay, so it's kind of a startup, a little bit, kind of.
Yeah.
And since are not going to be able to find out the names of your content partners, that can you give me a sense of what they're saying about this new opportunity? I mean, they love the idea their content will be distributed to new places, but are they curious? Are they confused? Maybe they're not, but I mean, how are you pitching this to them, and how are they responding to you?
Well, there's a couple of aspects. So one of them is just to understand 3.0. Particularly for a lot of the cable networks, they haven't had any exposure to it. So when they ask us if we're an OTT provider or a broadcaster, the answer is yes. And so we have to spend some time explaining that. Fortunately, I think this is part of the genius behind the standard. It's since you're using all the same common streaming protocols, they get the the DRM model and the encryption model. So they get comfortable in terms of protecting the content in a 3.0 system. I think that's the first one, and then the other one is just the growth opportunity. So. The beauty of broadcast is that you turn on a station, you cover a whole bunch of households in the DMA. So there's a ton of growth opportunity in terms of what we're doing that I think, given the trajectory of MVPDs and kind of the traditional model, they're just not seeing. So they definitely like that aspect of it.
And it's too early for them to start even to discuss the idea of interactivity or a secondary app. It's just probably too early for them.
I think it's a little early. I think we need to just get the fundamentals down first.
Okay. And I know you've got some other cities potentially lined up. I saw something about Montana, somewhere in Montana.
Yeah, we again keeping our focus on second and third tier markets. So, there's two other DMAs in Idaho that we think are good opportunities. Western Montana, Nevada. I mean, I think in the first year or two, we're going to sort of stay in the neighborhood, as it were, in the Mountain West here. When we did a deep dive early on using the FCC's broadband availability data, and use that as a proxy for pay TV. The market for kind of digital services for broadband or pay TV just continues to become more and more concentrated. There's less and less competition, and again, it over-indexes in the smaller markets. So, we see at least 50 million households across the country that are in need of something new.
It'll be great, I'm sure, for these mountainous regions, right, which have a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Having choice for this kind of stuff. What's going to happen once you launch? Do you think you'll focus primarily on marketing, or do you think you'll focus on, as soon as it's launched, you'll go distribute somewhere else? I mean, what's the sort of plan in the first few weeks?
We're really just going to focus on the Boise market for the rest of the year. We want to make sure that, like any new service, you've launched lots of services in the past in your career, right? I mean, there's always going to be some bumps and some things that you want to do better on. So we're going to focus on Boise, make sure we really dial in the service and deliver on the promise. And then I think from there, the plan is to expand it, additional markets in the region.
And I forgot to ask you, what's the date of launch, and will it be called Evoca TV? I think that's the plan, right?
Yeah, the service name is Evoca TV, and we're planning to launch later this summer.
Date?
No date yet. Later this summer.
Okay. Well, what else don't we know about this service? I think I asked all the questions I could come up with, but what's been very hard about this, other than that people were distributed? What else has been very hard? Just the creation of the box itself? Is that the trickiest challenge, or the relationship with the broadcaster?
Coming out of the devices space and in the mobile industry, I've done 60, 70 million connected devices between phones and tablets and PCs and things like that. Hardware is always hard. You always get some surprises on things, but building the box is challenging. It takes a lot of people and a lot of time to do it right. Nobody's really pulled together this kind of converged ATSC 3.0 network, so there's a lot of learnings there in terms of putting the pieces together. And then, sort of figuring out, having the conversations on the content side about what it is that we're doing, how do we protect the content, and why it's a win-win opportunity. So there's quite a bit of effort on that piece. So again, doing new stuff is hard to do, but it's coming together really well. We've got a great team now at Edge Networks, and we're super excited to launch. I mean, I think this is just going to be a game changer.
Are you looking to expand and grow your the resources who are working on this? Do you think you'll be doubling, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, we're going to be, we've got a steady flow of people that we're bringing on board, and we'll continue to do that. I mean, we need talent on the hardware side, software side, on the broadcast side, and it's a fun place to work. If anybody's viewing is interested, give me a shout.
I'm wishing you a lot of luck on this launch. Obviously, we're going to hear more about it. You are going to be participating at our TVOT Leadership Conference virtual September 9th and 10th. Little plug for us, but you'll be there in conversation with Tim Hanlon. And obviously, it'll be post-launch, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to know about what's going on over there. It's it's going to be, I think, an important development for the TV industry. And good luck. Break
Cool.
break a
Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate
pixel.
that.
Break a pixel, as I say, rather than a leg. Thank you so much, Todd. I really appreciate your sharing your time and what's going on over there in this beautiful landscape behind you.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, this is Tracy Swedlow. I'm Tracy Swedlow. This is Televisionation. Todd Achilles is CEO of Evoca TV. Actually, is the URL I forgot. I had it on my screen. What is it? Evoca.tv. EVOCA.tv. Thank you very, very much. And we'll see you next time.
Great. Thank you, Tracy.